it's funny because when I woke up today, I had printed this out, and then as I was walking back to my room, I was looking over the list, and I was like, all right, it's podcast day. It's podcast day. Let's go. And they were like
that?
the whole house was like, bro, what are you doing? All I hear is yelling in the back room. I'm getting pumped, man. This is podcast day.
Game day.
This is our game day. This is the big game. Every time we record, it's Super Bowl Sunday for us.
All right, good.
Yeah. That could have put pressure on us. I don't know.
It's a Monday.
It is a Monday.
We go. Super Bowl Monday.
So yeah, man, listen, welcome back to another episode of the Top 10 Movie Podcast with Mike and Mully. You are listening to Mike, and across from me, as always, is my co-host Mully.
Yep.
And we're just here hanging out at the usual secret location.
Not so secret location.
Yeah,
keep doxing our location.
Yeah, but nobody knows the exact spot. They might know the city at this point, but they still don't know the location.
I was thinking about this. At some point, we may have a challenge for you to find not only the spot, but like the booth that we sit in. If you could find it, then there'll be a prize for someone.
Well, if they walk in the door to the restaurant, they can see us because you look straight at us.
I'm just saying, even if they just take a picture of it and post it on Instagram or something like that, we might make that a challenge at some point.
What's the prize going to be?
Free movies, of course.
I'll give you
some kind of a movie thing.
I'll give you 1 Bitcoin.
Whoa, dude. Okay, wait. I want that. Don't let's not offer that to anybody. I'll take that myself. I don't need to get
no, you're right. Yeah, we'll give them like a free ticket or something. Yeah, if y'all are interested in that, y'all want to find out what we look like and where we are.
Let me listen to more podcasts. I'm sure we'll dox ourselves more. Please continue.
So I'm glad to be back with you and with you guys listening wherever you guys are at home, on the road, in jail, maybe. I don't know. If this passes some of your time, then we don't care, where you are, as long as you listen to us. We just want to say thanks for tuning in once again.
Thank you.
And today we're here with another list that your boy has created. Like I'm 4 for 4 now.
Dude, you sent me a giant list of potential lists recently.
Yeah, well, hopefully that list continues to grow.
You might be the creator. Tyler the creator. You might be Mikey the creator.
Hey, all right, okay. So listen, guys. Today we're talking about the top 10 movies that deserved a sequel.
Yes.
Again, as always, subjective.
Very.
Very. I think these are always skewed to like far left subjective. These are never going to be, this is what it should be, this is what I think you should do, this is going to be strictly what Mike thinks, Mully's list is what Mully thinks, and it's a respective list.
And I looked at some of the top lists on Google search, and man, there's such widespread differences. So this is really subjective about movies that deserve a sequel, and then there were some that deserve a sequel. That a sequel is being made, which I talked to you a little in the pregame, which I did not include on my list because they're eventually they're getting one.
Mm-hmm.
But so these are movies here that some of them are a personal choice because I fell in love with the characters so much I want to see them again. And some of them, I legit want to see what happens next. Like, I want to see what happens next in the story. It ended a certain spot, and I want to see what happens in a potential sequel. And let's be honest, a lot of the movies that are on those lists are not going to get one.
Yeah, same for me. And kind of like what you said, these movies, these sequels, if they were to happen, I'm not saying they would be great, but I'm saying, like, as a personal fan of the initial movie, I would like to see more.
Yes.
But so this is basically going to be like an unfulfilled wish list.
Yes,
so
exactly.
To speak,
It probably will never be full. You know what? Now with and this is a hot topic for me and you, but now with the advent of AI technology and what potentially could happen in the next few years.
Well, way to ruin my movie, by the way.
We could potentially you could just make your own sequel to these movies.
Yeah, just read the script that AI comes up with.
Well, or based on the previous movie, based on what that writer's done in the past or since or whatever, just to calculate what a potential movie could be, and then tell the computer to make it with those actors and their prime ages. Could be something that happens in the future. So these movies could get a sequel for us personally, but not for everyone.
Well, we wouldn't. If that happens, we're not going to get any royalty checks from it.
No, but at least our desire to see those characters continued.
Facts.
Maybe has an avenue now in the future, but hey, that's flying cars, that's robots serving us breakfast. That's way in the future. Right?
We almost got the robot serving us breakfast, so I don't know. We'll see.
The closest thing I've seen is one of those. They have one here. They're one of those little robot waiters that send you to where you're supposed to sit. And supposedly brings drinks to you, but never has brought any drinks to me. So. All right, so top 10 movies that deserve a sequel. Mike, I'm going to take this one. I'll take the first one here. This one is a set of lovable characters that I want to see back together again. And yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love to see it happen. This is a film from 2010. It's based on a television show from the 80s. It's called The A-Team. And it stars Liam Neeson, Sharlto Copley, Quentin Rampage Jackson, Bradley Cooper, Jessica Biel, Patrick Wilson. A lot of good stars in this movie. Directed by Joe Carnahan. I think I called him Callahan in a previous podcast, but Carnahan. Yeah, just plain out action fun. And of course, Liam Neeson out there as Hannibal Smith. You've got a Bradley Cooper who's on the edge of superstardom, kind of. And at this point in 2010, now he is who he is. He's a much more well-known and respected actor now. Probably be hard to get those two back into an A-Team film, but who knows? And a great supporting cast, right? I would just, by the end of this movie, really it's about the formation of the team, and then they get burned is kind of the idea of this movie, and how they get out of being burned. And then now they're on the run by the end of this movie, and they're available for hire, which is what the TV show is all about. People in need needed to hire some type of military force kind of idea that it was. They would get in these situations they could not get out, and you'd call the A-Team if you needed the best of the best. Well, they never really explored that aspect of it in the movie. It was just about them being in a bad situation and getting out of it. Now I'd like to see a sequel where these lovable characters come back together and potentially do what they did in the TV show, which is, be mercenaries for hire, basically what they were. I thought that if in part of this process of coming up with this list, I also thought maybe I should think about what a sequel would look like. Like, what would I want out of a sequel? And what's a potential storyline maybe in a sequel? And I could see an A-Team 2 where Liam Neeson's character dies and they have to get back together to try to solve his death.
It'll be a fake out, though. They wouldn't kill that character.
And he might come back at the end. So it could be, but if even, maybe it's a legit thing. Liam Neeson is getting older, and that might, the fact that that Bradley Cooper would kind of take his place in the leader of the group kind of a thing, or that they've been disbanded. Liam Neeson dies for some reason, or Liam Neeson's character, dies for some reason in the movie, and they have to get the A-Team back together to solve his murder. Anyway, the A-Team from 2010, I'd love to see a sequel. Well, I don't think a lot of people would, but I would.
It's easy to watch this movie and see there's breadcrumbs for them to do a sequel. It's hard for me to believe they didn't have at least some outline of a sequel in and around the time this movie was released. Because of the John Hamm appearance at the very end, because the A-Team, the TV show from the 80s, did span multiple seasons and multiple arcs. Like, you don't do a movie like that 30 years later and just do a one-off movie with these characters, because if you grew up in the 80s and you watch this show, these characters are all iconic. All four of them are iconic for different reasons, and then as a team, it's far-fetched for me to believe that they didn't think they wanted to do a sequel. But I don't think this movie did as well as it wanted at the box office. As many movies don't.
Yeah.
And so the funding wasn't there, and so whatever ideas they might have had moving forward, they decided this is not going to be worth it.
And if you're going to bring in today's prices for Liam Neeson and Bradley Cooper, it'd probably be the budget of the whole film.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because Bradley Cooper's directing now. Rampage Jackson was an MMA fighter, but he's inactive because he's just aged out. Liam Neeson's definitely aged out of the role, so...
And I think they could get Sharlto Copley and Jessica Biel, Patrick Wilson, if you want to bring Patrick Wilson coming back as the bad guy might be kind of cool, kind of a cool idea.
Looking for revenge.
Yeah. So, but I love the playfulness in that movie. It's an action film that's so funny and so fun, and it has you can see the teamwork between the all four of them and how much fun they're having. And even the villains in this movie have a lot of fun. They're laughing and smiling. It's a good time. I like this movie, and I think you would have to have Joe Carnahan come back. So, The A-Team, 2010, that's my first one I think deserves a sequel.
It's a great choice. I almost put it on my list.
Ooh,
so I definitely co-signed that. Yeah, no. I think I actually saw the movie twice in theaters. It was so much fun. I went back, a while later and saw it. First one for me to kick off this list is a movie called Push.
Yeah, Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, Dakota Fanning, Jaimin Hounsou was in this. This is basically like it's almost like a X-Men Heroes esque type show. They've got these different individuals with these powers.
It's like grittier and like filmed in a certain
It's definitely shot guerrilla style in Hong Kong on the move. It's all that
trippy, a little trippy too.
yeah. It's all handheld. There's no static shots. I don't think in this movie at all. There's a lot of movement, a lot of creative camera work in this movie. I like how they shoot Hong Kong. It looks realistic. A lot of the camera shots, like I said, you feel like you're right there with the characters in it because there's so many moments where the actors are like in this crowd, so you can tell like they didn't probably get permission to film in some of the locations because they're right there in the outdoor markets where you're picking up the food and things of that nature.
Very guerrilla style.
Yes, and I love that. I will always champion that. I also like that, kind of going back to the TV show Heroes and even X-Men, there is like this secret elite division that's their goal is to hunt down these individuals and kill the ones that don't want to come work for us. And I love that they just went with a generic name that they're just called Division. Just sometimes simple is the way to go.
I think and more. I think more realistic too. They wouldn't have this big name, and it would be like very covert.
Exactly.
The Division.
Yeah.
Sounds very covert.
And they have all these different people with different powers. Like Dakota Fanning's character, she can see the future, but she's not as seasoned because she's younger. And there's an opposite antagonistic character that can do what she does at a much more efficient scale. And of course, all the people that are superpowered that are more seasoned and know how to use their powers better all work for Division. So you have like this ragtag group of heroes with their powers, and they've got to fight against Division to get them off their back, basically. And without drawing it out, like it's a superhero movie without the label of superhero. This is original IP. To my knowledge, it's not based on any initial old adaptation or comic book or anything like that. And I'm a big Chris Evans fan. Dakota Fanning is, we talked about before in our last episode, like someone like Henry Thomas.
Amazing child.
Yeah, exactly. And I think she's been that, and I think she's kind of dropped off as she's gotten older, but she still does amazing work in adulthood. I'm a big Jaimin Hounsou fan, and he's actually going to be in the A Quiet Place prequel alongside Letitia Wright, and I'm looking forward to that. Not Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o. And then the other supporting cast, they're nobodies that they're probably local to the area, but they all do a great job in the role that they were given. I think there was enough depth there to continue the story of who's funding Division, what are the kind of powers can you present in the sequel, because you got to go bigger and badder the next time, and how do we get these guys back together to go up against this seemingly unstoppable force.
Nice. Yeah. Love it. Push. I saw that movie once when it first came out. I haven't seen it since, but I do remember I didn't get exactly what I wanted out from it, I guess, because I haven't seen it again, but I was really intrigued by the idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't remember a lot about that movie, so I need to go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
Speaking of that kind of handheld, gritty style, I think this movie takes that to the next extraordinary level. And it's a movie by Alfonso Cuarón, and it's called Children of Men from 2006. It stars Clive Owen, Julianne Moore, Michael Caine, Charlie Hunnam is actually in this movie as well. Hunnam, sorry, Charlie Hunnam.
Chiwetel Ejiofor is also in this.
He is, yes.
Yep.
It is a near future. It takes place in 2027, but this is back in 2006, so it takes place 20 years in the future from this movie, and the world hasn't had any childbirths in that 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so the despair that has taken hold of the world because of this, because they're realizing that they are going to be the last humans on Earth, and that nothing that they do is going to really matter, and everything that they've treasured and valued, like art and things like that, it's all going to fade away, has really pushed this world into this kind of apocalyptic dystopia. And this particular part of the story takes place in England, and and it's just about a man and a man who has kind of lost his wife, he lost his child, and he's kind of given up on the world, like the world's given up on everyone. It seems like, and to the point where they're like dispensing Prozac and I can't know where to say this, but suicide tablets and things like that. They're like the governments are all openly providing that to people that are hopeless and in despair, and then there's kind of this light of hope that is shined by his Clive Owen's wife Julianne Moore, who they are trying to quietly transport a woman who's pregnant and her soon to be born baby, and man, the tone of this film is so good and rich, and you can feel it. It's shot documentary style. Some people have called it's basically a documentary because it's the entire film. When they're in firefights or they're being chased in a car, like there's a particular car scene where they're ambushed in the woods that is so good, and you're in the car with them. The camera's rotating 360 degrees to catch all the action. It's hard to explain. You got to see it. So if you just see one part of that film, watch the car ambush scene from Children of Men. It'll just tell you everything you need to know about the innovative cinematography of this film and how it puts you right in the action. And there's also a gunfire scene at the end of the movie that you're right there with Clive Owen running through the streets, getting shot at, and you just feel like you're just right on his shoulder the entire time. Terrific movie. Movie ends.
Oh, you gonna spoil it?
Well, and let me just say it ends to where they get to where they need to go, and I think there's an opportunity. I won't spoil it, but there's an opportunity at the end for more of that story. I want to see more of it, and I want to see the impact that a new child has on that society. And then if they can figure out the reason why she was able to have it, I think there's a story to be told there. And I would love for, a lot of the people that I listen to this movie, they don't survive this movie. So
there's one particular shocking death that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So I just want more time in this world. And then if you inject a little bit of hope, we saw what happened in the Civil War at the end of the movie. I will spoil this, that both sides are fighting in this city, and both sides have a ceasefire for just a moment when they see this baby for the first time.
That is a huge spoiler, by the way.
They see this baby for the first time. It makes both sides cease fire. And I'm wondering if more babies were born, if that were to happen everywhere. I'd like to see that. So a lot of things I'd like to see Children of Men, but the main thing, I would like to see that tone and that style of filmmaking again. And and the guy who brought us Gravity, the same director, I would love to see him helm a sequel.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that movie. The camera work in that, the storytelling, the visual aesthetic of just the state of society.
Yeah.
It's all phenomenal. If you're a fan of like the technical aspect of filmmaking, camera work, lighting, angles, things of that nature, yeah, it's all top notch to me.
So good.
Yeah. Acting's off the charts. I mean, that's
everything.
To me, you couldn't ask for a better cast in terms of an ensemble. It's a great cast.
If I had one negative thing to say about it, it's not the happiest movie in the world. It's not necessarily one that you're going to be joyful at the end or in the middle or any point of this movie.
And so I'm kind of surprised that this is on your list because I know that's not normally the movies you skew towards. Yeah.
But it's just that I think it was just everything else about it that you mentioned, the filmmaking, the acting, the story, the atmosphere. It all won me over.
That movie actually probably, and again, I always say this, one day I need to actually commit and do an actual official top 50 all-time movies that I love. This is definitely in the top 30. Just from all the aspects we talked about.
I got to watch it again.
Yeah, same. I have the DVD somewhere, so yeah, I might throw that on tonight. Who knows?
Oh, okay.
Okay, next one for me, you're talking about dark. This is about as dark as it gets. This is a movie about a serial killer who chooses his victims and kills them based on the 7 deadly sins. This is a David Fincher throwback classic. Basically, will put him on the map and kind of showed us a different side of Brad Pitt we hadn't seen before. and it pairs him with the veteran Morgan Freeman, and this movie is called Seven. But Kevin Spacey is the serial killer in this movie,
Yeah.
and Gwyneth Paltrow, young Gwyneth Paltrow, everybody in this movie again, like Children of Men, to me they crush the roles, and they play their roles perfectly. David Fincher is probably my top 2 or 3 favorite directors of all time because he kind of stays in his lane. He knows the stories he likes to tell, and he does it very well. And
Some of the
I
other
love-
Fincher films. Can you think
He did Gone Girl with Rosamund Pike, Ben Affleck. He did a television miniseries on Netflix called Mindhunters about the origins of tracking down serial killers. So I mean, everything he does is in that same vein of like dark, gritty.
Yeah.
And to me, those are the movies you get the most compelling characters. And that's kind of why I take it a little more personal when like people like you or other people that like the movies you like don't like these movies because I mean, we all go to the movies for a different experience and we look for different things. And I look for characters with depth. And to me, the most flawed characters are the ones that have the most depth. And I also think it translates often to real life. You're going to find more flawed people in real life that you come across in every day than you would that are just like happy-go-lucky and things are always great. Kind of like, I guess, vanilla characters, I guess is one way to put it. If I can't latch on to something about this character or I can relate to, I want to invest in the character. And I can invest into a character that everything's going great and they always make the right decisions and they do all the right things and everyone loves them. I want to see like a full arc across one movie or a series of movies. And I think you get all of that in.
Let me ask you.
Go ahead, yeah.
Is Along Came a Spider, is that a spiritual sequel to it?
No, Along Came a Spider is
still Morgan Freeman investigating.
and with Ashley Judd's in that. It's Along Came a Spider and
another
Kiss the Girls.
Okay.
Those are the two. Yeah. Because remember at the end of 7, have you seen 7?
Yes.
So at the end of 7, well, not the end, but
in the bar.
yeah, that's been made fun of so much, and I kind of hate it now because I think in revisionist history, when you think about that scene, it's made fun of. People that haven't seen the movie, they go back and watch this movie.
That's horrific.
Yeah, they're like, oh, okay, this is not what I thought it was, which is more often that's what happens. But at the beginning of this movie, Morgan Freeman's like ready to retire, and then he gets put up with this young, brash, maverick detective in Brad Pitt, and there's like this clashing of ideals and philosophies, but they come together for the common good to try to catch this guy who's killing people based on the 7 deadly sins. And the final kill and reveal is incredible. It's Wrath. And
It's 2. It's the last 2.
yes. But it's
Wrath and something else.
it's beautifully brutal is the way I would put it.
Oh.
Like
I meant the sins. There was like 2.
Oh, yeah.
I forget what the names of the sins.
Wrath and Envy.
Envy, that's right.
Yep.
Envy.
Yep. But I would want a sequel. Obviously, I think Morgan Freeman would retire after this movie. I think he probably hadn't seen anything like this in a long time. He's a seasoned detective. He's been doing this for 20, 30 years. But I think he would probably stick around a little bit to kind of help out Brad Pitt's character.
I don't think Brad Pitt's character is a cop anymore.
I'd like to see a sequel with him though. See what he does.
You'd have to be through a lot of therapy, I would think, after this movie.
But I'd like to see him maybe.
Oh, well, he might be in jail too. Actually,
Yeah, I don't know. It gets tricky with all that.
yeah.
But I like to see him be the seasoned detective, and there's this new young brash cop he's got to take under his wing. But then somehow this new case is personal to David Mills, who's Brad Pitt's character in the movie.
Maybe some copycat. It feels like this film was a precursor to Saw. Like Saw has some of the kind of feel like elements to me.
Well, the reasoning behind the killer choosing his victims, it's similar because in 7, it's based on the 7 deadly sins, and in Saw, it's people who have abused their power or they've done wrong in some way that the killer sees.
And he puts them in some kind of trap or something
To teach them a lesson.
Saw, right?
Yeah.
And in this one, it had a similar like some of the death scenes, how they died, felt
Twisted,
Saw,
demented. Yeah,
yes.
100%.
Okay, yeah. Man, interesting. All right. My next movie, I think we both like this movie. Maybe not. I don't know if we've talked about it before. Robert Zemeckis movie, 1997, starring Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey, Tom Skerritt, David Moore. This is a movie called Contact. and it is a sci-fi for dang sure movie, maybe one of the ultimate sci-fi movies where Jodie Foster's character is searching for life on other planets through some kind of audio radar, and they find a signal, and within that signal there are plans to construct a machine. They construct this machine.
This is like SETI before SETI, if you know what SETI is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they test the first machine gets sabotaged, but the second machine that's in secret gets works, and then Jodie Foster gets elected to be the one to go through this machine, and she experiences some wild stuff while she's transported to another world, basically. But in our time here, it's as if she passes through the machine without going anywhere, and there's a whole controversy whether it actually happened or not. And part of when she goes to visit another planet in that sequence, they say that this is only the first step. Well, I would like to see the second step. So I would like to see a sequel to this Contact movie because I want to see what's next. And I don't know if it's Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey anymore, but I'd like to see what the next step with an alien race that's done this with, I guess, millions of other races before, and this is how things are done. Well, I'd like to see how they are done. It was really cool. So I'm not doing this movie justice. I don't intend to do this movie justice by trying to describe it in a 2-minute summary.
Same.
You should check it out. It is really a really good movie, especially if you love sci-fi. It is the best, creme de la creme of sci-fi to me.
Ooh, okay.
I love it. And it's good storytelling. The whole relationship with her father's good. Matthew McConaughey's character. I could argue that it needed a little bit more than what it had, but he provided what he needed to be for the movie.
In '97, he still wasn't quite McConaughey
Yeah.
that we know now. He was on the come up. This is right after Time to Kill.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, he's not quite, although he was really good in that movie as well, and he serves his purpose here. I think the McConaughey in this movie is more the McConaughey that we're kind of used to as far as like his personal life.
Right.
Kind of more the laid back, kind of hippie type. But he's obviously since shown his range to do a lot more than just that. But yeah, check it out. Contact. We'd love to see a sequel. It's been a long time since the first one, so I don't know how a sequel would work with the original cast. But yeah, I'd like to see just a continuation.
Okay. That's a good choice.
Thank you.
Next one for me is Shane Black. I'm gonna go ahead and go on a limb and say, and give it another 10 to 15 years, and this movie will be a classic. Simply because of the pairing in this movie. I don't think anybody really saw working. Like when you see these two actors in their own independent films, you don't really think these two are going to work together. And how is this going to happen? But this is Shane Black is really good at putting two guys together, and just that unity, that relationship drives the movie forward in all of his movies. Lethal Weapon, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and this movie, which is The Nice Guys, which stars Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. I'm fans of both actors, and I like majority of the movies that they've been in. And so to see these two come together, I was one of the people that was doubting how is this going to work, because I'm familiar with Shane Black's material in the past, and then that blend of comedy but also serious tone, and then trying to maneuver and make that work. But then when I saw this movie, I was absolutely blown away. Like I had no idea Ryan Gosling had such a phenomenal comedic timing.
Yeah.
And then of course Russell Crowe was just like the muscle, the enforcer in this movie, and they're put together to solve the murder of this woman. This is like 1970s LA. Again, I love any movie that shows me LA in the 70s. I love it. We talked about that with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Kind of does the same thing in the 70s. But there's so much in this movie that happens, and I love that you have to really pay attention in his movies for the most part. Not so much Lethal Weapon. It's pretty straightforward. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is kind of where you start to see he's adding more layers to his style of storytelling and in his direction. And then this is like the perfect blend of storytelling, actors together and all the other things too. And then it's in the 70s. It's just a great story. I like I like how they play off of each other. Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. I like how they meet and how they initially bump heads, and then by the end of it, they're like reluctant friends, partners. You know, you can tell they kind of care about each other by the end. And even with the ending, they meet in this little bar and they talk about, hey, I've got a name for our group, like this private detective, and it's called the Nice Guys. And then we fade to black. So whether that was meant to be like a teaser for a sequel or not, like it really made me want one, just because it was so much fun to watch the two of them on screen and their chemistry.
And I really want a sequel for that movie too, and it's for a different reason. That movie didn't really work well for me. I don't know. I was expecting so much more when I went into the movie, so it didn't meet my hype that I planned for it. But I love those two characters, and I want to see those two characters in another movie. I just felt like for me the story was something about the story was a little off for me. But I remember just being so hyped because I thought, oh, the Nice Guys, the feel, the tone that they're presenting in this movie, this is going to be so good and so awesome. And then it wasn't so much for me as much story-wise. But the two guys together, I really love that dynamic, and I want to see more of that dynamic in another story to see if it can fulfill the potential that I had for it and the expectations I had in my own crazy mind about what it should be. So, yes, I want a sequel to that, and I'd love to see it. And I think they'll do it. A lot of people love that movie, and I saw online there's a lot of demand for that sequel too.
Okay.
My movie that I would love another shot at, another crack at, and mainly not because of the story, but mainly because of the characters and the world that Mike Judge has built, and how funny this movie is, especially in retrospect. Thank you. Almost said retrograde. Retrospect. It didn't get enough love when it came out. The movie's called Idiocracy in 2006. It got a life after its release, and people love this movie, and for a good reason, because it depicts a future that's really dumb, and and there's a lot of dumb, stupid things that are happening in the future in this world. Luke Wilson and Maya Rudolph are for all intents and purposes, frozen and then reanimated way into the future to where the human race has become dumbed down. And they're pretty much geniuses in that world, and they are by the end of it, they are relied on to try and save it. It also stars Dax Shepard, Terry Crews, Justin Long is in it for a little bit as well, in a memorable role. I want to see, not necessarily like I don't even have a storyline in mind. I just want to see another crack at this movie. I don't want to see Idiocracy, more of it, of this world, and then some of the things that they bump into. He's named by the end of this movie. Luke Wilson's, I think, named president of, if not just U.S., like the world. I don't remember which one it was, but I like to see now what other problems he has to solve other than growing food. and what him and Maya now they realize they have to like live there now, and then try to make a world out of a place that's been ruined by lack of intelligence, which and I don't want to see it. I don't need it to be a serious topic on serious talks about the state of our world or where we're going. I just want to see more of the same comedy. It was so funny and so. And some stupid fun. You know what I mean? There's not enough stupid fun movies anymore. Those Happy Gilmore type Adam Sandler kind of movies from way in the past.
So you like the more immature slapstick.
There's a place for that.
Yeah.
There's a place for Three Stooges in our world, and there just hasn't been one for. I can't think of any, or ones that I haven't seen that have been super popular. And maybe there's a reason they're just not popular. That's why we're not seeing a lot of them again. But Idiocracy was that, but also really smart. Like there's a level of intelligence underneath all of it, because it's Mike Judge, that it's commentary about our world, but it's really like almost a South Park level type funny, making fun of it. But also there's some serious things that are undertones to some of the things. But basically, it's just a have fun, laugh movie, and I miss those. So Idiocracy 2, bring it back, Mike. Come on.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's a no for me, man. That's a no for me, dog. I had a friend basically pitch the movie to me kind of the way you just did.
Yeah.
just to kind of like set the tone for me walking in. So I just go in blind because I'd never heard of it,
Yeah.
and this might have only been the third time in my whole life that I've heard of it. Was just right now, because this one I forgot about, but I remember even being primed for it when my friend told me about it, and I watched it. I didn't get it. Like it didn't really work for me.
Yeah.
But I know there is like a large cult following fan base for this movie. And a lot of times that is kind of what gets sequels to some of these movies made. So, Luke Wilson's not doing much these days. You can always bring him back. Maya Rudolph she pops in and out of certain things, projects. So
Yeah.
you can bring them both back, no problem.
And I think I've heard Mike Judge talk about a potential sequel, and I don't know if he's written it or not, but there's always talks, right? There's always talks about something like that. So it didn't get its due when it came out. I think it deserves to get its due and have a chance to. I just want to see this. I want to see this same formula again.
Okay.
I want to see it from him again. So
Okay. Next one for me, it wouldn't be a proper list for me if there was not a horror movie on the list.
of course,
And it's kind of odd because we're talking about movies that we think deserve a sequel. Virtually every horror movie that comes out now it has a sequel.
and I don't remember on our previous list you had one about childhood.
I didn't, and bro, trust me, I was trying to think of one. I almost put The Lost Boys, but they had a sequel.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, good. Yeah, they all have sequels.
they all did. Of course, I thought about Chucky. There's like 20 of those. So
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's no.
it's
you're right.
it's the one genre that, if I had to just guess, probably has spawned the most sequels out of any other genre out there.
They were the forerunners of all the sequels.
Exactly. But yeah, so I couldn't add one for the last list that we did, just because I couldn't think of one.
Yeah, it's hard.
That actually was probably the most wholesome list you'll ever hear me do. Was the one we did last time. It's just all about childhood.
Jeez.
But yeah, so we're going back into horror. Now there's a number of ways I guess you could do the sequel. I didn't really give these that much thought, but just kind of in thinking about it in the moment, talking to you now. This movie is Cabin in the Woods. It's the original, with Chris Hemsworth.
Okay.
This is shortly after the Thor 1 release, but it was shot before that. The studio released this movie trying to, bank off of his popularity with Marvel now. Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're a horror fan, you know this movie. Like if you're like,
I have even seen this movie.
see, that's
which
what I'm
is
saying.
crazy.
If you're a horror of like all the tropes of a horror movie,
Yeah.
you go see this movie, and they work because they subvert all the tropes in horror movies and they flip it on its head. And then you get to the end, you're like, this was just a straight up fun. It was scary. It was funny. It had a nice little twist at the end. And I guess technically you couldn't do a sequel. Now I'm thinking about the ending because the world does end at the end. But
I didn't remember that.
yeah, Sigourney Weaver pops up in the last 10 minutes of this movie. And she's like a part of this cabal that, like, if you guys don't go back in there and
right.
die, these big monster beings will come and destroy the world. And then they basically tell her to F off and they kill her, and these monster beings come out at the end and destroy everything.
That's it.
So if you wanted to do a sequel, you could say, okay, well we'll sacrifice for humanity. And then the sequel could be, instead of a Cabin in the Woods, you do an Airbnb, you update it. I think whenever you do certain sequels, especially in the horror genre, try to keep in touch with like what's going on in present day. Current events and pop culture, what's happening in the present. So obviously you wouldn't do a Cabin in the Woods because you've done that. So we have to update it. Now they did have a movie come out a couple years ago called Barbarian, which takes place in an Airbnb. But you can still use a lot of the same elements in Cabin in the Woods and apply it to like a group of friends or a family that goes to stay in like this nice cottage Airbnb, maybe like a Broken Bow type vacation. And then these things start to happen. These people are behind the horrific events that are about to unfold, and you can do it that way.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll leave that into your expert hands. Although, like I said, I did see the movie. I don't remember that ending part, but I just remember the nice little twist there into what's actually happening. And that's I think that's the only reason I saw it, because I was tipped into like, oh, it's not exactly what it appears to be. It's like, okay, well, there's a little bit of a mystery to be solved here about what's happening. It's not just a straight up horror film. My next movie on movies that deserve a sequel, it might be, this might be better served to be a remake first before a sequel is made, but I can envision a scenario where a sequel is done. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and I put it on my list. The name of the movie is called The Starfighter. Last Starfighter from 1984, starring Lance Guest and Robert Preston, directed by Nick Castle. Now, The Last Starfighter is
You know who Nick Castle is?
I looked him up. Yes, I looked him up some of the other stuff that he's done, but I've forgotten.
So he was so in Michael Myers lore, Halloween lore.
That's right.
He plays the Shape in Halloween 1 and 2. Yeah.
That's right. I do remember reading that.
And he comes back to play Halloween the last three recent ones from 2018, 2020, 2023.
Well, he did a great job with this particular movie. This movie took advantage of kind of the arcade boom in the early '80s.
It's right after Tron, a couple years
Yeah.
after Tron.
And it is basically there's a arcade machine that is sent to a trailer park by mistake, and this arcade machine is kind of this young teenage, well, not young teenager, but he's graduating high school. But this young man's really good at this video game. He's just gotten good at it over the however long it's been there, and he's kind of like he's in a trailer park. He's trying to get out of the trailer park. He just doesn't like life there. Everybody relies on him really heavily, and he has to do things for everyone. But he's kind of has his respite is in his girlfriend and in this video game that he's just super good at. And at one point, at some point early in the movie, he like breaks the record for the game. And that same day, that night that he breaks the record of the game, he's visited by a mysterious person in a futuristic kind of car. And it turns out that this game is actually a recruitment machine for a galactic, kind of a galactic police force, kind of like a Green Lantern police force, but just a protectors of the universe type police force. And he's recruited into doing that, and then that's kind of where the story takes off. And so I think the same can be done today with especially how much bigger video games are in our society. And you could do this with a Twitch streamer. You could do this, with VR. You could take an aspect of it where someone who's just the best player at this game they find out that that's kind of a recruitment tool for some space protection agency. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I could absolutely see this being made or remade now, The Last Starfighter. And it just had, if you want to go back and watch it now, it doesn't stand up at all. The graphics are terrible compared to what we got today. But in '84, they were mind-blowing. And a lot of people still really love this movie despite it. Not a lot of, I don't think a lot of people that didn't grow up in the '80s know about this movie. But I think it has a really good fan base for this movie, and there's a reason. If they can find a way to work in maybe the original actors into this movie, at least the main guy, Lance Guest, if they could get him and him be the recruiter, and they can kind of connect it, that could be a great sequel. But I think it might make a better remake. But The Last Starfighter, a video game guy turns into an actual hero. It is very similar, now that I think about it, to the Gran Turismo movie that came out. Taking a video game kid in the race car and making them...
Yeah.
Well, take that sci-fi. And then there you go.
Okay. So, let me see a trailer, and then I can let you know if I'd be down for
I
it.
haven't seen that one. Huh?
Yeah, no, but I'm interested. Our next one for me is The Recruit. This is Al Pacino. This is basically on fire. Colin Farrell. This is 2003.
Young Colin Farrell.
Yeah, and then Bridget Monahan. Yeah.
Monahan, yeah.
iRobot, Blue Bloods, Lord of War.
John Wick.
Oh, yeah, I guess, if you're going to caught that.
She's pictured a lot in the movie.
She is, yeah, you're right. But, this is a movie about, Al Pacino recruits people to join the CIA, and then they go through the training process to become spies, basically. This kid is killing me.
Okay.
Yeah, so Al Pacino recruits people to become CIA agents. Basically be spies, be nobodies in a room full of everybody's kind of thing. And throughout the movie, it unfolds that Colin Farrell realizes Al Pacino is actually a double agent. And this guy held some secrets about Al Pacino's father, who were led to believe he was a part of the agency. He's
Colin
Farrell.
Farrell's father.
Yeah. He's just like a star on the wall, so there's a mystery as to what happened to him. Al Pacino kind of holds that over Colin Farrell's head to kind of get him to join. It's like, hey, if you join, I'll tell you all you want me to know or we want to know. Of course, that never happens. And throughout the movie, it's just like it's the things that get me. It's like espionage. It's like who can you trust? Like who's really good? Is
Yeah,
this
they
guy
do a really good
good?
job of doing that.
Yeah, I love the score by Klaus Badelt. It's great.
Geez, that's
Yeah,
wow,
I actually bought
niche,
that.
man.
That might have been the first composed score I ever bought.
Wow.
Yeah, in '03. So it's when I was starting to get into the musical elements of like film. And then by the end of it, obviously it's discovered Colin Farrell outsmarts Al Pacino, and he gets the agency to come and they get him to confess, and he gets killed. Al Pacino, not Colin Farrell. And in the end, like the next guy in line after Al Pacino basically says, "Man, you guys talking about Bridget and Kyle, you guys work well together. We'll have to put you guys together next time." And so that's how it ends. And I would love to see a sequel where they actually work together because throughout the movie, they're kind of pit against each other and they're trying to play each other. You don't really know, again, like I said, who's good, who's
They
bad.
don't know if they can trust each other.
Right.
They don't know who they can trust.
Yeah.
Who's telling the truth by the end. Yeah.
So now that they've worked this out and they're a great team, and I would love to see a sequel with the two of them where they have to like go overseas to like Berlin, or Germany somewhere, and they've got to like snuff out some secret agent that's threatening to expose CIA agents across the country. So.
Yeah, I would love to see that sequel as well. That's awesome. I like that one. Okay, so my next one is a Disney movie, ironically, but
Back to Disney.
not a traditional one. Although it's directed by the guy who directed Finding Nemo and Wall-E. This is a 2012 movie starring Taylor Kitsch, William Dafoe, Thomas Hayden Church, directed by Andrew Stanton.
Dude, please don't say this. Please don't say it out loud.
I want to see a sequel to John Carter.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
bro.
I do.
Yeah, you were killing me with this John Carter stuff.
John Carter of Mars is the original title. John Carter is the movie. It is basically a man in, I think it's the late 1900s, is searching for gold, and instead he finds a way to transport his self, and the whole transporting of what he transports, is his body, but it's his spirit. It's kind of a weird thing there, but it's basically, for all intents and purposes for the movie, he transports himself to Mars, and Mars is full of different alien races, and ones that are in different factions and fighting. And John Carter, when he is on Mars, because of the gravity on Mars, he's able to do some fantastical things like jump really high, and he has his strength, and he's more durable.
It's like Superman coming from Krypton to Earth.
Yeah, so it's a superhero story. It's basically a superhero story. So it takes place on Mars with alien races, and there's a love story, and there's him trying to get back home to Earth. But then once he finally does, he has to go back to the woman that he loves because he's fallen in love there, and he's built a whole life for himself on Mars. Yeah, I know.
No,
Saying it out loud, it does make me feel the same. But I did love the movie, and I don't know why I love the movie. I just something about the story, the playfulness, the relationship Taylor Kitsch is able to form with William Dafoe and his character who's an alien, and then just becoming how he has to how he ascends to becoming really the leader of Mars in one movie. It was crazy. I'd like to see more of it. I'd like to see a sequel to it. I want to know if he actually got back, and then at the end of it, it leaves it kind of up in the air. So I'd like to see that completed, and I'd like to see what else happens. So I'd like to see that. I'd love to see that movie again. So
Okay.
I know a lot of people don't. This movie wasn't a very popular movie. It was positioned to be very good, like a Rocketeer type level movie. Positioning anyway. Sorry, but again, like the Rocketeer, did not meet expectations. You probably will never see a direct sequel. I do think they will do this movie again somehow. Someone will do it again.
Okay.
Because it's a I think it's royalty. What is it? Not royalty free, but it's available in the public domain. I think John Carter is.
Yeah.
Maybe. So somebody could do this movie, and I know that it was done like in the '90s, starring Antonio Sabato Jr., I believe, was in it. So it was one of those movies.
Yo, the more you talk about this movie, the worse it sounds. You talk
You
about
don't,
Tony
I'm, not
Soprano
recommending,
Jr.
I'm not recommending you see it. I'm just recommending I would love to see a sequel of it.
Okay.
Actually, this is a movie that I added late. This is the one I had the movie Gone for 60 Seconds in this movie.
Gone in 60 seconds.
Gone in 60 Seconds.
I almost had that too. I almost
Gone
put
in
that on my
60
list.
Seconds I had on it because it had a great cast. It was a lot of fun. But I was like, we have 50 Fast and Furious movies, and that was basically a Fast and Furious movie, so I went with John Carter.
But the premise of stealing 50 cars in one night is a really unique premise.
Yeah, it is. But I love the cast. That's
Yeah.
so I would love the cast. But like I said, the Fast and Furious movies have just given us all so much overload in that kind of automotive genre of like a group dynamic that drives. And I just in good conscience, I couldn't say bring us another Fast and Furious franchise.
Okay. John Carter, yes. Wow. Like, no words.
It's my last action hero.
Yeah, I guess so. All right. Keep being funny. All right. Keep playing. Next one on my list is a movie that basically built up with the ending to go into a sequel. This movie stars Angelina Jolie, Liev Schreiber, and Chiwetel Ejiofor. Yeah, this is a movie about a CIA agent analyst who we're told is actually a sleeper agent for Russia. She's a Russian spy, infiltrated the CIA, worked her way up the ranks, and this movie's called Salt.
Yes.
And so once the premise drops, basically in the first 20 minutes of the film, she instantly starts to go on the run because she's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but she just understands that I'm in the building with the CIA. They're gonna try to get me because of what this guy's saying, and so she has to fight her way out of the CIA, which all that's very implausible. I don't care how long you worked in the CIA building, you're probably not getting out.
It's a movie, baby. It's a movie.
It's a movie, yeah, exactly. But I do like the one person always constantly trying to evade the people after her. I just saw on TV The Fugitive again the other day on TV. Still holds up extremely well.
Yes.
I was able to evade Tommy Lee Jones and his team.
I don't care.
Yeah, time after time. That specific trope's always going to work for me. Constantly getting away, especially when you can be creative with how this person's getting away.
Yeah.
And in this movie, Angelina Jolie she's like on the end of her like action type characters, like Gone in 60 Seconds had already happened. What's another one? There's the one I'm thinking of. I can't remember now. I literally just blanked on it. Anyway, she was being touted for as like an action superhero type.
Lara Croft.
Thank you,
Tomb
Lara
Raider.
Croft. Yeah, both of those.
Yes.
So she had a couple
Sky
of
Captain, the
bars.
Woman
Sky
Tomorrow.
Captain was there, so thank you. Yeah. So she was being touted as like the next action female superstar. But this was much more methodical film, more of a genre film. And then it turns out that Liev Schreiber's character is also a double agent. But throughout the process, Angelina Jolie basically decides to be good. And she kills Liev Schreiber's character in the end. Chiwetel Ejiofor is the FBI agent that's been tasked with bringing her down. He captures her at the end after she's already killed Liev Schreiber. They're in a helicopter at the end, and he finally believes her story of there's other sleeper agents out there. And she's been trying to tell him, I'm the one that can stop them because I know who they are. You'll never find them. And so at the end, he says, do you really think you can stop them? And she says, yes, if you let me go. They're in a helicopter. She's cuffed. They're like over this body of water. They're high up in the air, of course. And she's like, okay, we'll go get them. And I think they like come up with this quick plan for her to basically fake punch him. And he unlocks her cuffs and she jumps out of the helicopter into the water. And that's how it ends. So, I mean, it's primed for a sequel that we never got. And now she's, I think, too old for something like that, like the physicality of the role. So I don't think we'll ever see it. But to me, there was enough there for that. And then, of course, the whole double agent, the CIA thing, I love all the spy espionage stuff. So
I agree, dude. Yeah, you mentioned when you started saying Salt, I was like, oh yes, I remember that. It was a good movie.
Yep.
I would love to see a second one. And I'd love to see a second one of this movie. Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt, Bill Paxton.
I almost put this movie on the list too.
Directed by probably my favorite modern director, which is a big thing to say. I love everything that Doug Liman does. He's about to do Roadhouse. Is about to come out. A lot of controversy around that, but I can't wait to see that movie. But this movie absolutely deserves a sequel to me if they can figure out a way to do it. Edge of Tomorrow. Also known as Live, Die, Repeat. Like the title for this movie, especially on the DVD, Blu-ray, VHS cover art, whatever.
Even the posters, the movie posters.
It said Live, Die, Repeat on it. And a lot of people, and including myself, didn't really know what the title was. But the actual title is Edge of Tomorrow. It is based on a comic book, anime, comic book type situation.
Manga, they call them mangas.
Manga, yeah. And it's basically Tom Cruise is in a Groundhog Day situation where he has to live the same day over and over again. It just happens to be a day where really this alien invasion, it's really the crushing blow to Earth's soldiers. And he has to Groundhog Day his way into repeating the day over and over again to figure out how to defeat these aliens. And does so with the help of Emily Blunt's character and a group of kind of like outcast soldiers that are at first his enemies and become his friends.
She's like this great
Kind of.
military leader, type.
She is, but the way she got that was she had experienced the same deja vu over and over again type before in a previous battle that she lost, and now Tom Cruise has that power. Regardless of what the name, the synopsis of the movie is, it's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it. And I would just love to see a sequel to it because I just love the premise of that. Having to putting that. I love those movies anyway, but you get to live the days over and over and over again, and they've done that a lot of different times, a lot of different ways. Even for like Hallmark movies, there's ones for Hallmark movies, there's one for comedy that have been done. So I know it's a trope that's been done a lot, but I don't think it's been done any better specifically for an action movie than this. And so I love to see this. I just love to see another one of these. I'm not sure where they would take it. Trying to think of what a sequel would look like.
Having to reuse the already introduced trope of living the day over and over,
Yeah.
I think would be too gimmicky for a sequel. I don't think it would work.
Yeah, but let's maybe it's somewhere in the manga. There's a sequel to be had there, and there's some way they could retread it. But I want basically what it is maybe I don't want a sequel as much as I just want more of that. I want more of Edge of Tomorrow. Like we have the one, and I'll treasure it my entire life. I'll rewatch it over and over again. But man, if we could have another one, I would probably love it as much. I would hope so.
Yeah.
If they could do it, if they could figure out a way to make that work without the live, die, repeat part. But I don't know if they could. So if maybe there's a side effect and it's not exactly it, but it's somewhere similar, and the aliens aren't exactly gone, maybe there's somewhere to do. But maybe the manga has figured it out. We just don't know it.
They'd have to call it Edge of Today.
Edge of the day.
Instead of Edge of Tomorrow.
Before sunset.
Yeah, there you
after
go.
sunrise.
Right, see, there you go. Edge of Today. Boom. Nailed it.
All right, what's your next one?
Next one for me.
Two more, I think.
No.
3 more for you.
No, I've got 4.
Oh, yeah, 4. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My list is. Keep going.
So, this movie was universally panned, and I'm in agreement with that. It wasn't very good, but a lot of the concepts that were shown, I think it warrants more of that story. Give us more of that. Not necessarily so much maybe the characters, but other characters that could fit in this world. And then they do kind of leave it open for a sequel at the very end. I mean, it's basically telling you, hey, there's more to the story. We're going to continue it. And, of course, it never happens. This movie's called Jumper.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, this would almost be my list, too.
Yeah, again, cool concept that's introduced about
Really cool.
a guy that's you can jump your way, basically just teleport wherever you want to go, anywhere in the world. And the star of this movie is Hayden Christensen. This is right after Revenge of the Sith. So he's kind of like the hot actor at the time.
Miscast, maybe?
I wouldn't say it's his fault because people initially thought it was his fault that Revenge of the Sith sucked and he sucked as Anakin Skywalker. And now people look at that movie and look back at that and say, well, it wasn't necessarily his fault. It was the script and the direction. I actually liked him in this movie, in Jumper. It did just kind of leave me a little underwhelmed, like overall. Not Jamie King, but he was cast as the Thing in the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, no.
I can't remember his last name,
Terrible with
but
names.
Samuel L. Jackson was in it as the guy who's got to stop these people who can jump through time and space. It just Rachel Bilson was
Rachel
the
Bilson.
the love interest who I think was from Dixieland, some CW show like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with her filmography at all, but there were some cool elements to this movie, some cool ideas introduced, and I think we talked about this before. You didn't really like the fact that there was like this secret corporation that's out to stop these people who can do that. You didn't really like any of that, but the reason why it's on this list is because at the very end, Hayden Christensen's character figures out where his mother lives. He goes to her house. Mother's played by Diane Lane. So it was a big actor, but we don't see her till the very end. But the person who opens the door is Kristen Stewart, a young Kristen Stewart before Twilight fame. So you have Kristen Stewart and you have Diane Lane introduced in this movie in the last 2 minutes of the film. So it's obvious they were planning for a sequel, but because the movie didn't
His
do well,
ability to do what he does is connected to them.
well, because his mother does what Samuel L. Jackson's character did, which is try to stop people who can do that. So there was a whole thread there. It's obvious. It's like, okay, well, I know my son can do this. I had to leave to protect my son. That's obviously the way they were going to go. It's telegraphed a mile away. See what I did there? Telegraphed a
There we
mile
go.
away.
Yeah.
And then Kristen Stewart, I'm sure, is going to have, she would have had like a power where she could jump to. So, I mean, there's enough there to make a sequel.
Yeah.
Even now, I think they can still
I'd
do
love to see
it.
a sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. My next one, I think this one, if you feel the same way about this movie as I do, it was just jaw-dropping visuals at the time. Had a cast that was just so full of not only current time stars, but people that would become stars. Based on a comic book, directed. I'm gonna try to say this name. Directed by Timur Bekmambetov. No, I screwed that. Bekmambetov.
Timur
It's the
B.
Russian.
Timur B.
He previously directed most famously Night Watch and Day Watch. Russian director.
I know what this is.
2009. The name of the movie is Wanted.
Wanted. Yep.
Starred James McAvoy, Morgan Freeman, Angela Jolie, Terrence Stamp, Common, and Chris Pratt. Kind of an early role for him.
Yeah.
So, Wanted is a story of a young man who hates his workplace, which I could relate at the time. Hated the way he worked. He worked in these cubicles and hated his job, and he dealt with anxiety and had to take pills for them, and he just was in a really bad place in his life. And then he comes to find out that he's actually the son of a high-level assassin, and that this group of assassins wants to basically recruit him to find his father's killer. And that's kind of where we take off. And there's a lot of lies and deceit that take place in this, but a lot of also education for him about who he is, where he's from, and what he can do. And eventually turns him into a high-level assassin himself. And now what does he do with that power, especially when he finds out the people that have been training him are maybe not what they seem. So
There's a lot of bending of the rules in this movie.
yeah,
In
bending
more ways
of,
than one.
bending of ability, like human ability, what he's able to do, particularly of bending bullets, is something they're able to do.
Cars.
Slow down time just in their own reaction, speed up their reaction time basically by slowing down time within themselves.
It's like a video game element where you can slow down time. It's your focus meter in a video game.
Yeah.
To slow things down.
And it's
make it
super,
sharp.
and like a video game, very stylistic. Has a certain style to it. Has a real crispness to it. It's a hip. It knows that it's hip. It knows that it's cool, and it brings that. I love that part of it. And by the end, ultimately the bad guy gets his due. But now my question is, where does it leave our main character? What does he do now that he's not part of that association? And then all the people that aren't there anymore. So there's another step to be taken. But I love more than anything, I just love the tone of the film. And love to see another movie in that same tone. And it comes from a comic book, so I'm sure that there's plenty of source material to pull from for a sequel.
Oh, the sequel's definitely going overseas. There's multiple chapters of this group faction all over the world. They're either going to come after him because he took down this one specific branch, or he figures out I'm going to go after everybody else.
Or take down the rest of the groups.
Yeah.
So there's a story. There's some probably, like I said, the comic book or the manga or whatever it's from has more stories, I'm sure, to be told. So I'd love to see it in that same style. So Wanted, 2009.
Okay. Next one for me. Anybody who saw this movie instantly wanted a sequel. The director of this movie, this was his first movie right out of film school, which is very impressive. And right away it was a critical box office smash across the board. This is directed by Neil Blomkamp. This is District 9. We've mentioned Sharlto Copley earlier for sequels, and
18.
18. Yeah, he's in this movie. He's the main star in this movie.
Yes.
I love the way this was shot. This was shot documentary style, again, and it does add to the immersion in an effective way to make you feel like you're actually there, witnessing, experiencing this, not just from your seat in the theater through the screen, but actually there, like I'm across the street watching this take place. And his character, Sharlto Copley's character, gets infected with this alien virus, and throughout the rest of the film is hunted because they're trying to figure out what happened, because this virus is morphing his body to become an alien himself. And so, of course, they're trying to catch him to experiment on, and they send this militia out to capture him. And Sharlto Copley goes back to where he found this little vial of alien virus, which is another alien and his alien son. They're trying to figure out a way to get back to space because aliens have been basically marooned on Earth. I think was it in not Nigeria, but somewhere in
Africa.
South Africa.
Yeah.
For like 20 years, I believe. And so this particular alien is trying to figure out a way how to get back to basically the motherland. And reluctantly starts to try to help this guy and say, if you let me go back home, I'll help you get a cure. But it's going to take a long time. I think he said 7 to 10 years. And so this militia shows up towards the end, trying to stop the aliens from leaving, trying to stop Sharlto Copley. Sharlto Copley helps the alien get in his little ship he's been building over the last 20 years, leave Earth, and he's protecting him to get away. And it's just a really good movie. And for this to be directed by somebody fresh out of film school is like, it's unprecedented. That doesn't happen. So there's been talks about a sequel, District 10, for the last 15 years since the movie came out, and it never goes anywhere. So the director's done a few films after that haven't been as successful. But he's definitely like a niche director. Like he does a very specific type of movie, kind of like M. Night Shyamalan. Going into this movie, you kind of know what you're gonna get.
Yeah. And you think at some point he'd want to go back to the wells, the thing that made him famous? Maybe he will. That's a hope. Okay, so my next one is, I think, one that a lot of people have been asking for, and as the years go by, it just seems less and less likely, and probably won't happen, but it is a good, fun movie, and especially for those that are Trekkies that love Star Trek, this goes right down your alley. It is a 1999 movie called Galaxy Quest with Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, rest in peace, Tony Shalhoub, Sam Rockwell, Justin Long, and the feature film debut of Rainn Wilson in this movie. Directed by Dean Parasot, who's television. His credits are like so many television episodes. So really a television director, which makes sense for this movie because it's based on a cast of Star Trek-like television actors whose prime is way in the past, and now they're just living they make their living going to conventions and signing autographs for people who remember the show the way it was like 10, 15 years before. And so it's basically a parody of Star Trek. And but what happens is that these episodes that they filmed back in the day, they get sent out into space, just as part of the signals that all get sent out into space, and then this group of aliens discovers it and thinks that it's actual historic documents, and they base their entire society now on that television show. So they build a spacecraft just like the one on TV. They idolize these actors, thinking that they're real commanders and real star police or Starfleet in the Star Trek vernacular. So They come to Earth because they're in trouble, and they recruit these actors, specifically at first Tim Allen, the captain, to help them out. He doesn't know what he's signing up for. And then once he does and realize it, and he gets the other actors involved, they have to step up to the plate and not be actors anymore and do it in real life. So that's Galaxy Quest in a nutshell. And this is a very beloved movie for people that love this genre. And they could have done it where it really disrespected and made fun of that community, but it did the opposite. It made it fun. It made it real. It poked fun at it, but it also paid homage to it. And it's just a great film for those that love that Star Trek camp, but also the ideals of it. And to think that, and these actors that have played these characters for years and years and years, like William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, to think that they could be recruited to a real Star Force, and they these actors have to not be actors anymore. It's a lot of fun. And by the end of the movie, they have resurrected the television show to modernize it and brought back all the actors.
Okay.
So there's a sequel to be made there, and I would love to see what happens to the original aliens, and maybe something happens and they need that original cast back again. So love to see this grouped again. It's funny, it's fun, it's full of love for the Star Trek community, and I love to see it again. So
Okay.
Galaxy Quest.
All right. Nice choice. See, next one for me, I actually thought you were about to say this name for your one you just did. So I was getting a little nervous
Right.
because this is another one I think it warrants a sequel. A lot of people have been like fawning for the sequel for this movie ever since it came out. This movie, when it first came out, was like a lot of mystery and shot it in secrecy, and that's kind of this director's MO when he releases new projects or has projects that are on the horizon. He's even released projects where the trailer didn't even drop until a month before the release of the film. So he's very hush hush about his projects. Now he has done some more mainstream work. Like he's directed some of the, you talked about Star Trek. He's directed some of the Chris Pine Star Trek's movies. He started out with Felicity, and then he went to Alias. He was in TV. He did Lost, and then he jumped into film. And again, we talked about Super 8 in another past episode. So this guy's he's not one of my favorite directors, but I kind of know what to expect for him, and I mean that in a good way, because he's always going to give you a lot of mystery, and he's always going to just kind of give you bits and pieces, and up until the very end where he reveals things slowly but surely.
Directed one of the best Mission Impossible movies.
I agree. I always tell everyone start at 3 and then move forward. Even though I love 1 and 2 in their own right, but I think start at 3 is when it really starts to hit its groove in that franchise. But this movie's Cloverfield. This is probably, and again, I would say this always, but top 15 for me. I can watch this movie over and over. I can just watch the first 30 minutes up until the monster attack, and that could be like a little mini short film for me. I can just watch the party scene, everyone telling Rob goodbye because he's going off to Japan for this new job he's accepted. I could just watch that section. That is a whole movie for me. Everything that comes after, is just like icing on the cake. It's all bonus content for me at that point. I love how the characters are formed. I love the relationships they have with each other. I love how they're connected or not connected. I love the natural progression of the story, the immersion of the handheld, the handheld camera, where it's just, again, you feel like you're right there, like Children of Men we talked about. I mean, it's a bunch of that because this movie's shot like it's from the view of a video camera. They're shooting this for Rob as a goodbye video, and T.J. Miller is tasked with documenting this goodbye party, and he ends up documenting this whole basically alien invasion with this monster that attacks New York, and he just never stops recording, until his untimely demise at the very end of the film.
Spoiler.
Yeah. Sorry.
But it's been long enough.
Yeah, I love the marketing campaign for this. J.J. Abrams is a master at going all out with his marketing. Like, he was the one I think that created the term viral marketing, because they created a full website, and you could go to these actors or these characters in the movie. You could go to their Facebook profiles back in the day. T.J. Miller's.
Sure, wasn't a MySpace profile.
It might have been MySpace. You're right, because T.J. Miller has.
How long ago?
His name is HUD, which is cool because like heads up display. And that's his character's name. And if you go to his MySpace page before the movie came out, he's like 6'3". After he gets killed, because he does get bit in half, you go to his MySpace profile after, and it says it's like 3'8". Like, I mean, just
morbid.
yeah, it's morbid, but I mean, just the amount of
Detail.
effort and detail put into the viral marketing for this. They even had on the website, you could go to and see like, not sonogram footage, but like what's the kind of like NASA footage you could see of like
Satellite
footage like dropping from
Infrared.
space, and yeah, they had all this stuff, and there was like deep ocean footage of, you think you maybe see something moving down there. It's the way it's shot is genius. A lot of the footage is interspliced with an old recording that's in the tape that's being recorded over, and even that has a role to play if you pay attention. Which when I first saw it, I didn't even catch, but
Yeah.
and going back and after, yeah,
Look in the background and watch it.
Yep.
See the impetus of how it all started.
and like I said, everybody's been wanting a sequel for this. Like, he's spawned a couple of sequels, but they haven't been direct sequels to this.
Yeah.
And each entry in this franchise gets further and further away from the source material and what this first movie was about. But he keeps saying he's working on a sequel, a direct sequel to this movie.
Nice.
But it's J.J. Abrams, so the trailer could drop tomorrow and the movie could come out next week. Who knows? But I'm here for it. I'll be there day one.
I will too. I will be there with you. I love that movie. Yeah, and I'd love to see a second one of that. Okay. Whew, I'm kind of relieved. I get the last one on
No,
mine.
I have one.
I know you got one.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But I get to say my last one, and you didn't say it. So I'm hoping that I was hoping that you wouldn't say this one, because I think this one's pretty obvious. That this guy here, one of the best directors that we have, and is not. I thought was kind of. You would think that this is a guy who wouldn't want to do sequels, but he's done sequels, and he actually, if he could stop doing a sequel of a particular movie that he keeps expanding, we might see more awesome original content from this guy. But this movie is, I'm not sure if it's his best movie as a director. I think people would not say it is his best, because he's had bigger and more well-received movies. But this movie, absolutely, out of all the films that I have on my list, this is the one I want to see a sequel for the most. And it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger film, and it is directed by the great James Cameron. And no, it's not Terminator. This one also has Jamie Lee Curtis, Arnold, Bill Paxton, Tia Carrera, Eliza Dushku, and a little guest appearance by Charlton Heston in this movie. And the name of the movie is True Lies from 1994.
I saw this on a bunch of lists of movies that deserve a sequel. A bunch of lists.
And I think this was the first one I put on. I didn't even look at another list because I want one. Why do I want this movie so badly? Because first of all, James Cameron did just a wonderful job of constructing and directing this movie and keeping the tone between serious and lighthearted perfectly. Like, it's so much fun. There's so much fun to be had in this movie. But the emotions, especially when you think Schwarzenegger's wife is cheating on him, or like, but they go from like a serious tone to something like that, to like his wife having to seduce him in the bedroom of a hotel room when she thinks he's another man, and the spy element of this. It's basically James Bond. It's a spoof of James Bond, but it's not a comedy. It's just funny, and they play it real life, but they have fun with it. It's a weird genre to try and. It's definitely action, but there is comedy, and there is a spy element to it. There's a spoofing element to it, but it is just a really good film that keeps you on the edge of your seat and keeps you laughing. And it might be my favorite Schwarzenegger film as an actor of any movie that he's ever been in. Like Terminator, he's playing a machine, so that's one thing. And I know that they fleshed that machine out a little bit later on. But acting-wise, I love this Arnold Schwarzenegger. His accent doesn't bother me. He's a little muscular for a spy that you think is just some kind of...
that kind of took me out of it.
Right. He's a little big for what he's, what his... supposedly, I forget what his common job was, but he was so excited about computers or something like that. He was like, computers. But So, but when he makes that turn into being the spy, and when he's being the spy part of it, it's totally believable. I love it. Jamie Lee Curtis is so good in this movie. Like she's this kind of frumpy housewife, but not really housewife. She works, but she's like, you can see she's a bored housewife kind of thing, and then she kind of blossoms into something else, and you could see why there's a lack of excitement in their marriage. But then when she like kind of finds out what he really is, she's just like pissed.
Yeah,
But
rightfully so.
but embraces it and is one of them by the end of it. Tom Arnold, I don't think I've seen Tom Arnold in a better movie, and I haven't seen him in many movies.
That's
but
the one thing I would completely delete from the film is Tom Arnold's
Arnold?
character. Yeah, it was too much.
I don't know. I personally liked it. I liked his comedy that he brought to it. I thought Schwarzenegger and Tom Arnold they paired off each other well. I could believe that they were partners. You know what I mean? Because Schwarzenegger's all the brawn, and I don't know, Tom is just all the comedy. But not to say that Schwarzenegger isn't really good in this movie, and he's really funny in this movie. I think Schwarzenegger carries this film. I would love to see a sequel with him, and specifically James Cameron. Let's see what he can cook up for a sequel. I think it'd be really good.
So you think you think it's Arnold's best performance as an actor, from an actor's perspective?
From what I've seen, I just really love him in this movie, and I can't say that about everything that I've seen him in. But yeah,
Kindergarten Cop.
Nah,
From an acting perspective, I think he's a better actor in that than he is in True Lies. So but it's my opinion. It's
yeah. I know. I just a little over the top, and you talk about not believable as
a kindergarten teacher,
a computer salesman.
Oh yeah.
As a kindergarten teacher, is way not believable. But yeah, no. I think this is prime Schwarzenegger in not only movie stardom but in acting wise. I think he's the best in this.
Okay, So it's funny because whenever I hear someone say his name, I'm always listening to how they pronounce that last name.
Oh yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Up.
It's like, especially when I hear, this is gonna sound messed up, but when I hear white women pronounce the last name, I'm listening real close. Like, how you pronouncing that last name? Run that back one more time. Oh, okay, you're good. I hear the EGG. I don't hear the IG, so we're good.
Yeah.
No, but
that'll be in my mind now every time. Thank you. It wasn't one now.
You're gonna overemphasize when you pronounce it. No, that's a great choice. I haven't seen it since it first came out, but it was very entertaining. The Tom Arnold aspect, I'm not a fan of.
Yeah,
but
I get it.
Everything else I'm down with. That was the first time I found out what a Harrier jet was.
Dude, those
which
are
was really
awesome.
cool. Yeah,
those are so good.
So yeah, they don't make movies like that anymore. That was another one of those movies that was made for
but
its
James
era.
Cameron can.
He can,
That's the thing.
but I don't think he ever will.
I don't think he will. That's too Avatar out, man.
I think
so many Avatars.
even aside from that, I think he's a smart enough director to be able to evolve with the times and understand, like, filmmaking at that scale is skewed now towards heavy CGI. Everything he does now with all these avatars, sequels is all. I'm not saying that that's a good thing. But
No, I just disagree because I think John Wick would be a formula that you could follow and probably be, except lighten it up.
Everybody, but the thing about that too is
Everybody's doing John Wick.
completely off topic, but everybody's starting to do the John Wick style stuff, and it's cool to be the innovator of something when it works. But then when you start, and I get it, when you copy what's the phrase when you copy somebody? It's flattery. When
It's an homage. It's,
yeah. But when you start to overdo it, it's like maybe you should just let it go.
I agree. I'm just saying that is proof. Is that I think those kind of films still work, still can be done. I don't know if John Wick is flying Harrier jets, but he is on a horse, like he did. Arnold Schwarzenegger did, jumping off buildings. That's something that was in this True Lies movie as well. The Harrier jet stuff, no, but car chases and things like that. Like some of the things, with modern technology, perhaps the special effects are cheaper to do, easier to do. Maybe you could do them all in, it's somehow a lot cheaper. I don't know. But like I said, I leave that to James Cameron's hands. I think he could figure it out. He could do it if he wanted to. I'm pretty sure they would greenlight it if he really wanted to do it. They would do it, but
Yeah, Arnold's like 75, so no.
yeah, no.
Okay, I'm gonna just go ahead and wrap this up. Last one for me.
It's not True Lies. Good.
It's not True Lies. Yeah,
I found out it would have never been True Lies.
I'm actually surprised. I actually did kind of think maybe one of us might have a crossover on this list,
did.
and it never did. But you had an excellent list.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Except for John Carter. That's the only omission I would make from your list. The other 9, top notch. So I mean, you shoot 90% from the field. Come on, that's you can't ask for anything better.
From your field, I'm hitting 100.
Yeah. So last one for me. Again, it had an ending that alluded to a sequel that we just never got. And I remember after seeing it, I instantly went right to the internet to see like, hey, what's the status? Is it greenlit? Is it in production? What's going on? Has it been announced? And
So how badly you wanted a sequel.
Yeah. And this movie wasn't even like really a big hit, but I'm a fan of the lead actor. This has got Mark Wahlberg. It had Ronda Rousey in it. It had Iko Uwais, who's from the Raid franchise, which is an amazing martial arts franchise. Lauren Conrad, who plays Maggie from The Walking Dead. She was in this movie. I'm a big fan of her as well. This movie's called Mile 22. John Malkovich was also in this. You've never seen this, have you? You're looking so lost.
He's done kind of some similar films, but go ahead and remind me and the audience, what is this?
Yeah, so Mark
I'm sure
Wahlberg.
I've seen it.
Mark Wahlberg is he's the head guy in this elite. They're always like an elite special CIA unit. So the villains in these movies are usually the hit squad. Well, this guy is like the antithesis of that. He's the protagonist side. He's the good guy side. So they take down high value targets, and they get wind that there's this prisoner who walks right up to the U.S. consulate and says he wants to defect. He wants to turn double agent and sell secrets to the U.S. But they got to get this guy to an airstrip, and it's exactly 22 miles from where they're holding him. And it's already known before we even get on this journey that there's going to be guys trying to take them out to get this guy back, because obviously they don't want him to defect. John Malkovich is like headquarters, secret base. He's got like a little IT team. He can keep track of Mark Wahlberg and his team as they make their progress to the airstrip. And as they go on this journey, Mark Wahlberg's whole team gets taken out, except for him and Lauren Conrad in the end. He gets Lauren Conrad and this double agent to the airstrip literally seconds before the plane leaves, because the plane can only be there for so long. So that aside from the 22 miles they have to go, the plane can't be there but a certain amount of time. So they got to get there. So they get there right before the plane leaves. She gets on the plane with this prisoner, and Mark Wahlberg gets a phone call from this lead terrorist, basically saying, you don't even know who this guy is. Like, you think you've been doing the right thing, but you don't know what you're really up against. We've been in control the whole time. And then it cuts to Lauren Conrad and this guy on the plane, and this guy's doing like this little manipulation with his fingers, like touching each finger with his thumb back and forth, and she's asking, well, what is this? And he's like, oh, this is, how I calm myself down. And then we get a flashback to, this is how the Russians train their people to calm themselves down. So he's a triple agent. So he was actually a sleeper, pretending to be a double agent. And then they cut to Mark Wahlberg, and we see the plane blow up. So then it ends with Mark Wahlberg talking to like his superiors, basically about what's happened and how he wants to go after him and how I'm going to take care of this. And that's how it ends. So it's an abrupt ending, but to the point where, okay, I definitely want more. It's probably going to be more of a Mark Wahlberg-centric film because his team's dead, but it would be a straight-up revenge movie. I'm going to go after these guys. Whether you guys back me or help me or not, I'm going to go after them.
Gotcha. I do remember this movie. I remember thinking at the time that it was very similar to like the same, and I'm sure this has been done in several other movies, but specifically there's a movie called 16 Blocks with Bruce Willis and Mos Def.
Mos Def, yep.
Where they have to travel 16 blocks to get him to a police station or something, or some kind of, maybe it's arraignment or some session. And they have to battle through the streets of New York to get him to.
He's like a high-profile witness in a case, I think.
Yeah, so I remember thinking okay, this is that for this. You know what I mean? But and I don't remember the ending. I need to go back and watch that movie. But yeah, all right, Mile 22, very nice.
And I mean, it's easy to come up with a sequel, Mile 23.
Yeah, that's it. You have to go just 1 mile further. That could be on the tagline. 1 mile.
1 mile further. See, I like that. See, you can do this, man. It's a Hollywood thing. You got it.
All right, so that's our top 10 list for each of us for the movies that we believe deserve a sequel. What movies on your list do you believe that leaves us that absolutely must need a sequel? And what did you think of our list? We'd love to hear your feedback on that on whatever platform that you are listening to this. And we hope that you enjoy this episode. I hope that you'll enjoy our future sequels as we keep adding more and more to this podcast, coming up with more and more top 10 lists. A lot of them looking like they're going to be coming from the brain of Mike himself, because I think he's got the next 8 that I agreed to do. So we are already 8 deep for the new year. So we're going to have plenty of content for you this year, and we hope that you're enjoying the content. One of the things about this show, this podcast, it was created really out of the pureness of each other's hearts, because for years we would meet and sit at a restaurant just like this and talk about these same kinds of subjects, maybe not as organized, but
Yeah.
talk
definitely.
about movies, life, music, sports, but a lot of movies, because we're both movie buffs. And we would often tell ourselves, man, we should record this because we think other people, this would be something I would like to listen to, and maybe other people would like to listen to. And we're just always having a good time and going back and forth. And I think the more we've done these podcasts, the more relaxed we've become and starting to learn our groove a little bit, and not like almost like relearn it. So we're not as conscious of the mics and things like that. It's being recorded. But if we could kind of I think we're getting back to what we were originally, which was just two guys sitting at a restaurant talking movies. That's where I want to get back to. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, same. I think one of the initial titles for this we threw out was Two Guys in a Booth,
Two guys in a booth.
which would have been cool, but I mean,
Still can do it. We can still do it.
no, they now know it's his top 10. So I think we're going to stick with that.
All right.
I like it. It ties into what we do when
Yeah.
we come in and record. And, we've touched on this before, but, one of my goals is as an avid, fan of film, I like to be turned on to new movies that I don't know about. And in return, I like to provide movies that maybe other people have never heard of, or again, like I said before, make them look at this movie that they've seen a few times differently and maybe think of it, oh well, Mike and Molly look at this movie this way, or they discussed this and that was cool, so let me go back and watch.
Yeah, it reminds me, that movie was so good. I got to go back and watch that. Or, man, they talked about this movie and I've never seen it. I've always heard it is good. I'm going to go check it out. Or something I've never heard at all before, because me and Mike, we grew up at a real special time, and a lot of the people that are listening, I would think, did as well. When there was a plethora of movies available through VHS tapes, through DVDs, that just didn't make the transfer, that aren't in the streaming. That maybe they're on YouTube now, and they're just free to watch because nobody knows about them. So we'll have some of those. Hopefully we'll find some gems for you, and that we talk about some movies that you love. Maybe introduce you to some movies that are going to be going to make your new favorite top 10 list. And we just really hope that you enjoy this podcast as much as we do.
I agree with everything you said. It's a great way to close. The last thing I'll say is, and this is going to sound super cliche, but wherever you're listening to us, like, subscribe, share, all that cliche stuff that YouTubers say you got to do, and, just keep spreading the word. We're not looking to monetize, but we would like to reach as large an audience as possible. But, I mean, if it's just 2 or 3 people, then that's cool, too.
No, yeah, and if it's just 2 or 3 of you and are loyal to the podcast and love listening to it, man, we're just so grateful for you. Thank you so much. And, be love, spread love.
Pay your bills on time.
I've heard that. Do what you got to do to get through this life. All right, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for allowing us to be in your ear holes here for a little bit, and for allowing us the opportunity to provide a little maybe entertaining content for you, we hope. And we hope to see you the next time.
Later, y'all.
See ya. Ear hole. I don't know if we should call it ear holes.
I was going to make a joke, but I